Steel Curtain Network.
¡Por Jorgito! ¡Go down! Najee Harris! DJ Watt!
What is up, Steeler fans, and welcome back to another Steelers preview. You just heard us on Tuesday. It is the 4th of July. We decided to do a little pre-recorded podcast for everyone out there and to not just wish you a happy 4th of July for those in the continental United States of America, but also just to, a lot of times this is a holiday that people get a day off work and they get to enjoy it. So joining me while Dave is on vacation is Bryan Davis. What's up, Bryan?
Happy 248th birthday to America. Good to hang out with you, Jeff. I miss my boy Davey, but I'm sure he's having fun somewhere with Big Brosco causing some mayhem.
Yeah, someone told me once ago, you know, the people in England, this is just another day, right? And that's when I heard that, I'm like, it's so funny.
Oh yeah. Well, it's funny because my mother-in-law is British, and I'm like, I used to say to her when she was cognizant, I would say to her, "Can I say that?" And I probably
Yeah,
can't.
sure.
But I used to say to her, "Do you root against us on this day? Are you even allowed to celebrate this?"
I mean, yeah, they're not viewing it like we view as Steeler fans Super Bowl 45. Like, oh, I hate that. Never watching that. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Enough of that stuff. We wanted to talk about fireworks, and no, not the fireworks that you're probably going to go see at your local park or anything like that. If you are a United States citizen, we're talking about Steelers fireworks and some of the greatest moments that cause you to just explode and be unbelievably excited. And there's a bunch of different ways we could go with this, but Bryan and I spoke before we hit the record button, and we decided to eliminate Super Bowl or any playoff memory whatsoever. And so, because really, when you think about it, if we were to try and say, okay, what moments do you remember the most? Everyone's going to say, Troy Polamalu's interception of Joe Flacco in the AFC Championship game. They're going to talk about these incredible plays in the Super Bowl, Santonio Holmes catch, James Harrison's interception return for a touchdown, all those plays, and I didn't even name all of them. So we're just going to cut those out. Only going to do regular season. So Bryan, there's a bunch of different ways we could go. I'm going to let you go first in terms of, and this is in no particular order. What was a play that comes to mind regular season that you're like, this was a firework play for me?
All right, this game was actually a forgotten classic for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we're going to go back to 1997, which is one of my favorite Steeler years. They did go to the AFC Championship game, but very late in that 1997 season, we are talking December, and if I'm not mistaken, it might be like December 13th or something like that. So it was right before Christmas. It was a Saturday game. And the Pittsburgh Steelers at the time were tied for the top of the Central Division in the AFC with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And Cordell Stewart was your quarterback, but there were a lot of struggles he would not start off games very well in 1997, but he always looked really good in the second half. And the Jaguars, if they would have lost this game, they probably would have been a wild card team that year. But it was very important to win this game against another playoff team, the New England Patriots and Drew Bledsoe. And you got to remember, they were the defending AFC champs as well in that season. Bill Parcells was the coach. It was just an absolutely incredible game, and they were losing big time with less than 3 minutes left in the game. And what happens? A fumble happens, and they broke through, and they got this fumble, and they returned it all the way for a touchdown. And it was so really exciting that the way it happened, it was just one of those games that you're like, wow, I can't believe they won this game, because it looked like they were losing. And they ended up, Orpheus Roy was involved in this too, but the guy who actually picked up the ball, and it was called an interception, but it was almost like a fumble because he was tossing it from below. Kevin Henry anticipated it, scooped it up, and ran all the way in towards the end zone. And he tried to go ahead and lateral it to Orpheus Roy. Remember that name, to go into the end zone. You thought they had a touchdown, but they ended up winning that game in crazy fashion. It was such an incredible finish to a game. I love that. I will never forget the fireworks and how I felt. Then it was all ruined that night because I went out for my first date, which would with who became my first wife.
All right, so I'm gonna go a different, more modern game to choose from. And I'm not gonna give quite the background because everyone knows it that lives it, and that was the Immaculate Extension. That was Antonio Brown catching the ball at the goal line, stretching it over. I remember that was a Christmas Day game.
Yes, it was.
And I had to leave my father-in-law's house to go back because I was covering the team for then Behind the Steel Curtain.
We were colleagues at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just remember being in the basement because my family wasn't home yet from the Christmas festivities. And they got home and they went to bed. I'm in my basement and I was just screaming because not only did they win, they beat the Ravens. It was Christmas. I got to rub it in everyone's face for the rest of the holiday season. That was a fireworks moment for me. What's another one for you?
Oh, that definitely was a fireworks moment. There was a game, my gosh, I keep on going to 1997. I don't know why, but this was a game I was at. And at halftime, the Jaguars were kicking the crap out of the Steelers in this game. And I just told you all about the Jags that year. And this was the second game. It was right before Halloween, but it was the second game in the series. Because, there was like 5 teams in the division back then. So there was a lot of division games. 10 out of the 16 were division games. So what happened here was you had, let's see, week 3 was when Bill Cowher tried to punch a player on Monday Night Football. If you remember that, it was a Jaguar player. Everybody brings up the Mike Tomlin thing, but so that was a bad loss, and it looked like it was going to be another bad loss. Then the Steelers have 2 major firework plays in this game. The Jaguars, who had James Stewart at the time, he had a couple of weeks before he had 5 touchdowns in a game, and Stewart, they were on first and goal on the 1-yard line late in this game, and Pittsburgh held them all 4 downs, goal line stand. The game goes into overtime. And then in overtime, they're at the 50-yard line. Stewart tosses it to Jerome Bettis, and the rest is history. And that place went up. That it was crazy. And that was a beautiful drive home because first time I ever got to see a walk-off. I think the only time I saw a walk-off. And it was a walk-off right there, and it was gorgeous.
All right. I'm going to go, again, more modern game. And I want to say, I'm trying to think what year it was. Maybe 2007. And everyone's going to know what I said when I say Aaron Rodgers, Ben Roethlisberger at Heinz Field. And it ends with what? A walk-off pass from Big Ben to Mike Wallace in the corner of the end zone. I want to say both quarterbacks threw for over 400 yards in this game. It was remarkable. I remember where I was watching. It was with my friend Chris, who passed away due to ALS almost 10 years ago. And we were just stunned. Like, we couldn't believe it. Oh my gosh, because it's the last second, last play. Plays normally don't pan out, right? They normally don't go your way. Catches the ball in the end zone, and I was elated. Just so happy. That was a phenomenal football game, a fireworks moment for me. What's another one from you, Ben?
Well, let me talk about that real quick because I have a funny story about that one too. You have children, and
Yes.
you probably have those moments where your wife comes to you and says, "Take him, take her. I can't. Won't go to sleep. I've had it. I can't do it right now," and because they're just completely worn out. And that was a moment at the end of this football game. My daughter, Jillian well. Jillian was 7 months old because this was in December. She was born in May. And so she was just fussing and having a hard time. And so brought Jillian out to me, and I'm trying to rock her and still watch the game. And my wife's like, "You need to go in the bedroom in the rocking chair." I'm like, "No, we're good," because I couldn't miss that game. I got her to sleep. I'm going. Ben Roethlisberger throws that touchdown pass. I jump in the air with the baby. Next thing you know, touchdown Steelers. The baby's screaming. My wife gets up from where she was laying down to yell at me, and I'm like, "Oh gosh, I am in so much trouble," but I don't care. The Steelers won that game.
That's right. That is right. Do you have another one?
Yeah,
1997, I'm sure.
No, I'm going to go to 2006, and January 1st, 2006, and it was not a grand play, but a grand moment. And you've heard me tell this story before.
Yes.
A lot of people on this network know when I found out that the woman I was dating would be my wife, the one for me, when Jerome Bettis scored his last touchdown in Heinz Field at the time. He scored 3 in that game. He only had 50 yards, but scored 3 touchdowns in that game. And he holds his helmet in the air while everybody is screaming, "One more year, one more year, one more year." I look over, this woman's crying next to me, and we had only been dating a month. And I said, "She will be my wife." because of that, and she has always loved Jerome Bettis.
Yeah. That's a great memory. And I'm going to go a different route. This was a game that a lot of people might forget because Big Ben was not the quarterback of the team in this game. It was actually one Michael Vick, but it wasn't Michael Vick with the football in his hands as time was getting ready to expire. It was the Wildcat game with Le'Veon Bell. Mike Tomlin rolls the dice, and they always ask these questions. They asked it after the Immaculate extension game too. What if he got tackled short? And he's like, it's a risk we were willing to take. What if Le'Veon Bell doesn't get in? Like, he gets in the Wildcat against the Chargers. I believe it was San Diego at the time. And that game was another one where you're like, oh my gosh, they're going for it. They're going for it. Oh my gosh, Le'Veon Bell's out there in the Wildcat. What the hell are they going to do? That was a moment for me. I love that game. That's a great memory.
Something else happened. 2 more things happened that night. The Pirates were in a wild card game.
Yep.
And they ended up losing. So we were going back and forth.
Right.
We just became colleagues at that time. I remember messaging you. But also, that was the very first game of Chris Boswell.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's a good.
That was his Steelers debut.
Cool. That's all right. I didn't know that. Very good.
So right, I got to go back. I got to go back to the Super Bowl year, the last Super Bowl year, and I've got 2 games that I want to bring up.
Sure.
One, I'm going to bring up this one first. It was the very famous 11-10 game in the mud in Pittsburgh, the Steelers and Chargers again. And Troy Polamalu had one of the greatest interceptions I have ever seen in the snow. Now, it wasn't a snowy ground, but there was snow, flurries flying all around. And he fingertipped this ball. I mean, how it did not hit a blade of grass, I don't know. But he dove and made this play that I'm thinking, this guy has superpowers. It was one of the most beautiful interceptions I've ever seen. Did he return it? No, because he got cracked right away. But he picked it. I can't do it justice. Go back and look at December 2011 Chargers Steelers Troy Polamalu interception. I'm sure you can find it on YouTube. It was a thing of beauty. But if I go back to week 4 that year, they're playing the Baltimore Ravens. That was the game. Willie Parker was hurt. You were expecting to hear from the rookie Richard Mendenhall, and you did. Then you heard him go out and ruin his rookie season because there was a bounty on that game.
Yes.
And Joe Flacco was a rookie as well. And then it's in overtime. And the Ravens tie it right before regulation ends. And the offense wasn't doing anything. The defense bailed them out. And the big hit was from Debo, James Harrison. Lamar Woodley scoops it up. And I could still hear Billy Hillgrove calling that play. And that was another, he didn't say Steelers Maniac Haven, but it felt like it. Heinz Field was going insane. I know you remember that one, right?
Yeah. Oh, I remember both of those. For sure. I could go in a bunch of different directions. I'm just going to say a couple of them, just like real rapid fire here. The Charlie Batch game in Baltimore, where he hits Heath Miller and Heath Miller hits the pylon. The upset Ben was hurt. No one thought Charlie Batch was going to get to go into M&T Bank and win a game, and they win a game. That was memorable. I'll give you one that resulted in a Steelers loss, but was a memory that I'll never forget. Steelers Patriots in Pittsburgh. Steelers are trailing. They need a field goal. And it's a little swing pass to Juju Smith-Schuster. He makes like two defenders miss, and he is off to the races. And that's the eventual Jesse James caught it play. That's what happened. And then the Eli Rogers, that's who he was targeting, an interception. I often that when I was watching Juju run down the sideline, I remember saying, "Oh my gosh, he's going to score! Oh my gosh, he's going to score! Oh my gosh, he's going to score!" And he cuts it in. And I've often wondered, and I actually did a whole article about this way back in the day. I analyzed what would have happened if he didn't cut it inside, but actually just ran out of bounds, stopping the clock. How much time would they have left? What is the scenario? Would it have been different? How would it have played out? And that's like the Zapruder film. Like, you're just going to kill yourself doing that. So that's one for me. But I got to say, the last one that I'll mention, and I could go on for days, and you could too, Brian. I'm going to say Ben Roethlisberger's final regular season game was really, really special. Beating the Browns. And correct me if I'm wrong, it was a Trey Norwood interception, was it not? That resulted in Ben getting to go back out on the field to take the final knee, to say, like, he had the ball in his hands. I want to say it was a Trey Norwood interception.
I cannot confirm that. I can't deny it either. I just, wow, that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Ben had some great walk-offs in that last year with AB as well. Antonio Brown. There was a game they came back against the Jaguars and against the Bengals in November and December of that year. Oh my gosh, there are so many firework moments. I'm just so glad we had an opportunity to talk about them today.
Yeah. No, I was right. Trey Norwood's interception. They asked him what it was like that allowed Ben Roethlisberger to go back out there and get the last snap and kneel it out for the win over the Browns, who he owns. He's always owned them.
I have one last one.
Sure.
And this was a loss though too, but it really shouldn't have been. There was a horrible snowstorm, especially in our neighborhood. We were living really close to each other at the time, and they were playing the Miami Dolphins. And the Miami Dolphins weren't a great team, but my Charles Clay beat them up that year. And Tannehill was young on that team. And the Steelers were losing at the end of that game. And they tried the old Stanford band play.
Oh, gosh.
And I could picture, I was down in my basement when my basement was, you remember when my basement was cool, when it was fun before the flood. And we had wood laminate flooring. And I remember just running up to the TV, getting on my knees and slamming my hand on the ground over and over. Go, 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 go. I looked like a wrestling referee. Go, 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 go. And then he stepped out of bounds. And my dachshund, named after Troy Polamalu, Polly at the time, she was down next to me because she watched the games with me all the time, because when the Steelers scored a touchdown, she got a treat. Both dogs, Hines and Polly, got a treat. And I'm like, wow, this floor is on fire. I actually, for the first time, I ever scared the pee out of somebody, because after I was slamming my hand on the ground, she got so scared and peed. And next thing you know, the ground is so hot and burning hot. And I realized that I'm slamming my hand in urine. And then at the 11-yard line, Antonio Brown, just a sliver. How did he go out of bounds, Jeff? I don't know.
But if you're listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, we'd love to know what your fireworks moments were. Regular season Steeler games. Hit me up on Twitter at jhartman, HARTMAN_PIT. Brian, what's your handle in case they want to add you too?
I am at Steel Curtain Bad.
Very good. Very good. So this has been a fun little exercise, shorter podcast for the Steelers preview on this 4th of July. We'll be back to a regular schedule next week. In the meantime, enjoy your holiday, everyone, and we'll see you next week for another Steelers preview. Take it easy.
Steel Curtain Network. Get it.
Everybody else gets a little tight.